Big weekend in the NFL. We got the national championship game later tonight against Indiana and Miami down in the beautiful South Florida. And so lots going on. Of course, the Lightning continue at least their point streak. They did lose a game over the weekend, but they're back on track after that. So plenty to talk about. But let's start with the Bucs coaching search, which will go on and on and on, as they say, because I think, the two of the top candidates that they have interviewed also have interviews for head coaching jobs. Obviously Mike McDaniel was the last guy in here of ilk, and that was on Friday. He came to Tampa and had a chance to sit down and talk to Todd Bowles, and he's also, in it for many head coaching jobs. With the Browns, I think he has a second interview set up. Titans, he's talked to the Ravens. He's going to go to Miami, I believe, and maybe talk to Tom Brady and the Raiders and get together with them down there. So obviously, the head coaching opportunities would come before the offensive coordinator. But my friend Jeff Darlington keeps rapping on the same thing and says, hey, look, if he doesn't find what he's looking for as a head coach, there might be better opportunities next year. He's definitely, would consider becoming an offensive coordinator for next season, and then maybe his options would be better. We saw Ben Johnson do that, go back to Detroit, and now he's the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So it wouldn't be unprecedented. It's not a money thing. I'm sure there's probably money the Dolphins owe him, there'd be like an offset. So the new job would just supplement that and take away that responsibility, whatever salary was as an offensive coordinator. The Dolphins wouldn't have to pay that portion of it. So there's things that can be done. Those are the pie in the sky, sort of choices that Todd Monken, obviously McDaniel, those would be the two guys that you would put probably at the top of the list. And then Todd Monken's going to talk to the Cleveland Browns again. So as a head coach. So until they exhaust those, I exchanged some text messages with Todd late in the week after John Harbaugh took the job with the New York Giants, and he just said, look, I know I'm going to be offered the Giants offensive coordinator position. Met with the Bucs, had a real good visit with them. Neither one of us, he said, are in a hurry to make a decision, which is good since obviously him and McDaniel have head coaching considerations. So I think they're going to kind of play this out until you know what's going on with one or both of those guys. I'm not sure that the Bucs will pull the trigger on anybody else. Now we'll see if these other staffs start hiring like we saw. Atlanta hired Kevin Stefanski, so he's going to start forming his staff, and so that's when you start wanting to have a little bit of urgency. But I think their top two guys would be those two, and if they can convince one, or one does not get a head coaching job, then this is a great place to be an offensive coordinator. You got tons of talent. I think the other thing that I've heard mentioned is that, unlike going to Detroit where Dan Campbell is there, with Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay, you can be totally autonomous with the offense. You're not going to have, any interference, so to speak, with the head coach and that side of the ball. So it would be something that I think both those guys would like. So look, we'll see. They're also interviewing, other special teams coaches. I saw Danny Smith, who's about 70 years old, was in here with the former Pittsburgh Steelers special teams coach. So that would be one way to go. They interviewed Ravens Anthony Levine Sr. So they're kind of going down those two tracks, trying to find a coordinator for special teams, one for offense, and then presumably they'll start filling those other defensive spots after that. I don't think, Steve, that there's a great chance they'll get either Monken or McDaniel, but I understand why you're waiting for them. You know what I mean? Like, you got to run that. You got to exhaust that before you move on.
Well, absolutely you do, because, and contrary to some in the local media here that want to talk about continuity and whatever else, like, you got to hire the best guy, period. Period. Mm-hmm. And what a coordinator both Monken and McDaniel are.
Right.
They've proven it in the NFL. And if the interview went well, then, if those are your lead candidates, you absolutely have to wait to see what they're going to do.
Sure you do.
Because who cares about the 2027 season? Some want to say, don't hire McDaniel because he'll leave in 1 year. Who cares? Like, if he leaves in 1 year, it's because he did great things. You got better.
Well, I'll tell you who wouldn't care is Todd Bowles.
Absolutely.
Because Todd Bowles is on one of the hottest seats in the NFL as a head coach, and if Mike McDaniel or anybody else comes in here and lights it up and gets head coaching opportunities and moves on, that just means that he gets to keep his job because they've won another NFC South title and maybe gone beyond that, right? So yeah, ideally would you like to have a coordinator for more than 1 year? This would be their fifth and five. Sure, you would. But all it means, with the exception of Josh Grizzard, who they just felt wasn't very good or good enough, what it's meant every other time is that those coaches were so good that they got head coaching opportunities. So that's what you want. I mean, look, Mike McDaniel. I mean, I know what I can see what any coordinator, including Monken and anyone else, would look at this offense and say, okay, wait a minute. They've got, they all should be healthy at the start of next year, right? So they got 5 solid offensive linemen, right? An all-pro at left tackle, damn near Pro Bowl at right tackle. And, if their guards are healthy and you're going to get Cody Mauch back next year and Ben Bredesen, that's a great place to start. And you look at the depth. Well, first you look at Baker Mayfield, where you should be happy with him. He's certainly a quarterback that can win in this league. He's proven it here. And then you look at the receiving room, which is deep as it's ever been. Now, even if Mike Evans doesn't come back, you still have Chris Godwin and Emeka Buka and Jalen McMillan and Tez Johnson, and it goes on and on. So with the running backs and Bucky Irving and maybe Rashad White's going to go, okay, that's fine. But you still have Sean Tucker. You could draft a guy. You need a tight end. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Kate Otten, but you definitely need to attack the tight end position a little bit. But man, that's a loaded offensive room. Like you can win with those guys. They have won with these guys, and you got some young players that are developing. So that would be really attractive, as would the Detroit Lions. But the Lions, again, they've got Dan Campbell, who's an offensive guy. He took over the offense last year at one point from Johnny Morton, and so he's going to have his fingers in that pie. Maybe you want more autonomy than that. Still plenty of talented players like Tampa Bay. So I think, all of that's going to matter. But the biggest thing is, do those guys get head coaching jobs? And if they don't, or, then I think one of them may choose Tampa Bay. I really do. And yeah, you're right. I mean, who cares is right. I mean, you made a comparison when we were coming on that, Alex Golish moved on to Auburn. Okay. Good thing he did, and look what they were able to attract because of the job that he did. Look at the head coach they have now.
Well, there were fans that were like, well, what if we lose Alex Golish? Well, if he won the American Conference, which he didn't, but you hoped he was going to, they had a shot at the college football playoff.
Sure.
Like if he got you there and left, okay, great. Like, would you rather be 7-6 and winning your bowl game again and go home happy at the end of the season? Or would you rather go for it?
Yeah. Now, you may not be happy that he took Byron Brown and all of that, but you know what? You've got a really good coach from Ohio State that's getting in lots of recruits. So
he's done a hell of a job.
He put USF back on the map,
Now, we'll see how he can coach, but I think it's a really good hire.
Yeah.
You don't know till he gets in there, but
no.
So far the moves they've made in the transfer portal and what he's done quickly in recruiting and that you like what you see. So you hope he's going to take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And he might be gone in 2 or 3 years. Okay. Like, you're not in a Power 4 conference. You have to expect that.
Yeah, and Brian Hartline, knocks it out of the park, wins the American, maybe gets you into a playoff situation or something like that. Man, that's gold.
But I don't understand fans that are, like, don't want to win.
I know.
Like, don't hire Mike McDaniel because he might leave in a year.
Well, there are people
if he's the best guy. If there's a better guy, fine. Go get him.
Yeah. I've not understood this either, too. It's like, I want Bowles to lose so they'll fire him. Well, are you a Bucs fan or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I truly don't know anybody that's paid their money to see somebody go coach. Maybe in college, I guess. I don't know. But it's not very exciting. They're just walking up and down the sideline with a headset. Steve Spurrier would throw a visor or two. That was fun. But you go to see your team win, right? Now, if you don't think the guy can win for you, okay, that's fine. But if he's here, it means that he's won enough, at least in the owner's eyes, to justify his job. So I don't know. I don't get the idea that I'm a big, name the team fan, but I want I want them to lose so my coach gets fired. It's just
I
weird.
mean, if you want to, the last game of the season, you're already out of the playoffs. You'd rather lose because you
Sure,
want a higher draft pick. Okay,
I
I
get that.
understand that from a fan perspective. But as long as you got a shot, like, why are you rooting for your team to lose?
Right. It better be a damn high draft pick like number 1 or number 2. Which don't worry, they want to lose too. Like
Because the other thing is, if you fire your coach, you don't know who your next coach is going to be,
no,
and you have no say in it. I mean, the owners do, but you don't.
don't know the next coach. Don't know if maybe the blame reaches further to the GM, and maybe you lose him too, and now you have no continuity, and you're kind of starting over as a program. Maybe the Glazers don't get it right this time. I mean, there's just a lot that can go wrong there, and I think everyone just needs to take a breath here, and let's see who they end up with. Um, I'm not really sure. I mean, I think there's still a chance that we might see more people interviewed for this position. They've interviewed plenty so far.
Well, they should, because if McDaniel and Monken both get head coaching gigs, then
You're going to need
you've
more.
got to go to your next, assuming those are the top two at this point.
Yeah. Now, Zach Robinson, I think, and I've seen this written by some people, and I don't totally disagree that, at least of the guys that sort of have this, resume and experience that you're looking for, and also a relationship or familiarity with Baker Mayfield. Zach Robinson was with Liam Cohen, with the Rams, with McVay when Baker was out there for 5 weeks. 3 years ago. And unlike Liam Cohen, who hadn't called plays in the NFL, Zach Robinson now has done that in Atlanta for 2 years. He beat the crap out of these guys and put up, lots of yards and touchdowns against the Bucs. He won't be playing them anymore, but he is another guy from the McVay tree that gives you sort of some continuity in the offensive structure, and has done it, has called plays, at this level. And Atlanta had a pretty prolific offense at times. Certainly they had good players, and the quarterback situation was a little back and forth, of course, and then the injury to Michael Penix Jr. But I think if I were ranking the guys they've interviewed, I would put him up there pretty high, ahead of what Brian Callahan or somebody like that. But once these staffs start to, they start hiring head coaches like they did with Stefanski, in quick order, you're going to see these coaching staffs start to fill up and form. Same with the Giants, and then we'll know about Monken. And then I think it'll go fast after that. But there's still too many head coaching jobs available. There's like 7 that are still up in the air. So once these guys, I think, seeing Harbaugh go to the Giants, Stefanski was next, to Atlanta. Now you're going to start to see, teams, grabbing their head coach here, I think, in the next week. And by the end of the week, those coordinator positions will start to be snapped up as well. So there'll be movement. God, I hope there's movement, because I've been doing this way too long after the season ended. I'm kind of sick of it. I'm sure the Bucs are too. They at least looks like they took Saturday and Sunday to catch their breath and recalibrate and maybe watch a little playoff football and stuff like that.
This does seem to be a slower hiring cycle.
It very much is. Yeah. Yeah, it very much is. And I guess it's because there's so many head coaching jobs, and a lot of those teams that a lot of those coaches those teams want were still in the playoffs, possibly.
Yeah, that maybe.
And so they're waiting on them, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have Harbaugh hired now.
Yep.
And Stefanski in Atlanta.
That's
so
right.
That's a new division rival.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They got their guy.
Yeah. 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 And I'm not that excited about. He's a 2-time Coach of the Year winner, but I've heard good, I've heard bad. I don't know what to make of that. I think Atlanta's.
It's hard to judge anybody in Cleveland.
Yeah, it really is. It truly is. I mean, look at Baker, right? So, but I've heard
in LaFleur resigned in Green Bay.
LaFleur stayed, and that would have been a domino that would have changed some things, maybe even for Harbaugh if it got wind that he was going to leave. But yeah, he stayed. The GM stayed. So there's continuity there. I'm not sure, what Miami's looking for. There's a lot of guys involved with a lot of the same teams. They're just kind of going from team to team. Jeff Hafley, I think, is a guy in Miami that they really like. There's all kinds of familiar names out there, but until they start hiring head coaches, these assistants are going to be waiting to see where they should go. And some of these guys are promised to certain guys, and and whatnot. I got a feeling just in the exchange I had with Todd that he's probably, and I've seen it reported, going to join Harbaugh with the Giants if he doesn't get a head coaching job. I don't know. I don't know what would change that really. Um, so I do know that he loved living here in Florida. He liked working for Jason Light. He loves Baker Mayfield. He worked with him in 2019 in Cleveland. So there's, and I don't want to say it's disingenuous. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, right? So he's obviously looking out for himself and his family and all that. So maybe he does end up here, but um, with the head coaching opportunities with Harbaugh going to the Giants, I think that's less likely than say even McDaniel at this point. Even though I think McDaniel's going to end up with a head coaching job, maybe he doesn't like what's on the board, right? He's not going back to Miami, obviously. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the Ravens probably being the best spot. I don't know if he's a Baltimore Ravens guy. Obviously, Pittsburgh, I don't see him as a great fit there. Then you're looking at teams like the Titans, the Cardinals, right? So it may not be this cycle for him. He may actually prefer to get out of that meat grinder that is being a head coach for a year or so, and just kind of go back to doing his ball plays and recalibrate and seeing what's available next year, like Ben Johnson did. So we'll find out. Hopefully by the end of the week, something like that. It's got a break here. In the meantime, little playoff football over the weekend. Boy, not that I'm a bad prognosticator to begin with. And maybe I was looking at my heart. I like, I tell you this all the time. I don't really root for teams, but I like stories, right? I root for the best story. And I thought Josh Allen was still the best story left in these playoffs. I thought San Francisco, what they did with that team and all the injuries was a really good story, right? Didn't know what would happen to them. Obviously, what Drake May has done in New England is a tremendous story, but then you had Houston's defense, and, could CJ Stroud start to play better, and could Houston find itself in a championship game? And then in Chicago, in my house, it was, bear down Chicago Bears. My wife's from there. And then, you had the Rams who just got by Carolina, but Matthew Stafford going on the road, kind of having an MVP season. Could he get himself back to the NFC Championship? So there was a lot of storylines, and the ones that I would have wanted to write that I was pulling for, they all lost. Every team. So let's start with Buffalo, Denver, if you don't mind, real quick here.
Sure.
So here's what I think. And look, you don't win playoff games, and this is a theme of this entire postseason. You can't win playoff games by turning the ball over. You can't have 4 or 5 turnovers a game. I think Josh Allen had 4 on his own. And so yet he was good enough and put on the cape enough to overcome those and put his team in a position to win the game. But for a call that I'm still not sure in this league what a catch is and what surviving the ground means and what possession and down by contact means. There's the very controversial play in that Buffalo game.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I sure felt bad for Josh Allen in a weird way. And I look at that Buffalo team, and they just don't surround him with very good players. I mean, they have a generational talent like that, that time after time he puts his team on his back and he makes these ridiculous comebacks and things like that. But, Brendan Cooks can't be your number one target. Like, Brendan Cooks is 32 years old and got, to Buffalo like 7-8 weeks ago. Like that, you're going to have to surround this guy with more talent. And I think, whether it's you want to look at the head coach or the GM or whatever it is.
I think you're right to a point.
Yeah.
But I can't remember who put some of these stats out, but like how many top 10 defenses has he had? But yet he turns the ball over too much. Like,
well, that's true.
You could sit there and say they don't surround him enough, and maybe he, does he have as much talent as the Rams on offense or the Eagles or some of the others? No, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like it's him carrying the whole team. Like,
no, he's had a good team to play for.
He's had turnovers at the worst times in his career, and
yeah,
he's a hell of a quarterback, but the blame isn't on everybody else all the time either. Like, he hasn't been good enough in some of those games. Some of those shootouts with Mahomes, he's been spectacular.
Yeah,
but it's not like it's been him and nobody else on that team. Like, particularly on the defensive side, they've had really good defenses in the past. He wasn't good enough to get them over the top on offense.
Yeah.
And some of it was talent around him, but some of it was him.
Yeah, but again, and you're right. Like this particular game, and it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
I mean, 4 turnovers.
You turn it over that many times, you can't win. You can't win. And yet, and in part because of the turnovers, Denver scored 33 and had to go overtime.
I believe Josh Allen was 0 for 9 on throws that went over 20 yards in that game.
Yeah.
0 for 9. That's not NFL quarterback good enough.
No, it's not.
It's not. Now, two interceptions, and they were, one was questionable, the other one was spectacular.
Right.
But 0 for 9.
And yet, I'd have to look at the protection, right? I have to look at, the receivers, how many of those balls were dropped. Like every pass has a story. But yeah, you're right. He did not play well enough to win on Sunday or Saturday, I guess it was. And, here's the thing I will say about the replay, and I don't want to get too deep into this, like what's a catch and what's not. It goes back to Bert Emanuel and the Bucs in the NFC Championship game, when for all the world looked like he had made a play and they were trying to come back on the Rams after blowing the lead. But, what I dislike is if we're going to have these games and they mean so much, and we can use the virtual telestrator or whatever to review a spot on the field in the second quarter and determine whether it's, an inch or 2 inches from the yard to gain. And, we have challenge flags and all this stuff. When we get to overtime, when you have a play that big, don't you think we fans deserve more than a nameless, faceless person in New York making that call? I mean, the referee didn't even, go to a camera or take a look at a replay. It was just told, I guess, by him and his crew that was not a catch, and I just don't know what the hurry was, and I think that was the big problem that a lot of Bills fans had. Of course, they're looking at it saying that he was down by contact, which I understand.
But you can't be down by contact if you haven't survived
the ground
catch.
Yeah.
And I know there's Bills fans are saying it was absolutely 100%. I don't know if it was or not. I don't know if it was a catch or interception. I don't know.
Right.
All the replays I've seen, because when do you actually survive the catch? It's not when you touch the ground. It's not when you hit the ground. You have to survive it.
Yeah. All those things are good points.
And all those replays, as much as anybody wants to say it was good or bad, it's inconclusive. At least every replay I've seen, it's inconclusive.
Yeah, and I've seen some still shots. His knees down, he's hanging onto the ball, he's got possession.
But that doesn't mean he had survived the catch already, because
right. But
once the knee's down, you're not down.
But when do you survive it? Well, do you have to stand up and hand the ball to the referee? Like, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, that's the hard also part. Ambiguous.
Absolutely, but that's the way the rule's written, and so I know. That's on the NFL in that regard. It's not. I mean.
There's no definition of a reception anymore.
I think that should have been a catch? Probably, but not by the way the rule is written, which is all you can go by. It's not what the referee thinks is a catch. He has to go by in the replay rule too, is the rule, the review. Now, should they have spent more time reviewing it in that moment? Probably. Yes, absolutely.
It's such a big play, yeah.
Yeah. But then, I don't as much as it's controversial, I don't think there's a replay that shows it was definitive either way. Because it happens so quick and they're rolling over each other, so you don't really see when the transfer happens.
Right.
So,
yeah, got a lot of Buffalo friends of mine. The guys who cheer for Buffalo are pretty upset about that one.
If I was a fan, I would be too. Yeah.
Seattle just knocked the heck out of San Francisco. That was inevitable, I think, at one point because of the injuries to the 49ers. They got behind 17-0, and it was pretty much all she wrote. So, good season, great season in some respects by Kyle Shanahan and those guys. I thought C.J. Stroud, my namesake, let me down. Man, he's played so poorly this last really 2 seasons. He's never matched what he did as a rookie. And it looked like he lost all his confidence in the first half of that playoff game. He had 4 interceptions. And, I was questioning whether they should put in, another quarterback, Davis Mills or somebody. But they went with him the whole game, and they wind up losing 28-16. He apologized and should for the way he's played really these last 2 seasons, but certainly this past season. He said he'll get better and all that. Houston now has a tough decision with him because he'll be coming up on free agency here fairly soon, and they need to regain confidence that he's their franchise guy going forward, I think.
I mean, that's really what this season is now. Is he your franchise quarterback?
Yeah.
This will be his fourth year coming up.
Yeah, and you
So
got
have to decide on the
fifth-year
option.
option, which is a pretty big ticket, and you can certainly protect him for a year before you have to decide to franchise him or give him a huge contract. So it's definitely getting late early in Houston, and that defense was just so lights out. The defense almost won by themselves without any help from the offense, but of course they wind up. And Drake May. Didn't have a great game himself. He had like 3 fumbles, lost one, but they managed to get it done 28-16, and they're moving on. And that, and then of course we didn't mention, we did mention Buffalo, but we did mention the Denver part of it. Have you ever seen a situation like what is going on with Denver when the second to the last play, almost undetectable, your starting quarterback breaks his ankle? It's just incredible, man.
I mean, we know Nick Foles, what he did when Carson Wentz went down several years ago, but that was late in the regular season.
Right.
To go down 2 plays away from going to the AFC Championship game.
Oh.
And Stidham hasn't thrown a pass since 23.
That's right. Jared Stidham's going to be the guy that's going to have to step in and play.
I think he took 1 snap this year.
Right.
He was a kneel down.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't thrown a pass this year, didn't throw a pass last year. Denver was the only team to not have a backup quarterback throw a pass in either of the last 2 seasons.
Wow.
And now they're going to have to go with the backup quarterback in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, just really disappointing, man. And they got a good, solid team coming in with the Patriots, and they do have their starting quarterback. So Stidham has to play the role sort of Nick Foles, right, when they won. But I think even Nick played more than this guy did.
He did. Well, it was late in the regular season that Wentz went down. So
he actually got to start some games.
Yeah.
Before he was in the playoffs. But man, yeah, that was tough. And then the final game, the Bears. I mean, listen, Caleb Williams makes one of the greatest throws I've ever seen, playoff or otherwise. Backpedaling, 4th down. Throws it about 50 yards in the air, hits the tight end for the touchdown to tie the game on the final, fourth and game, basically. And that should carry you to a win and NFL lore, right? Like that's
and you stop the Rams on their first possession, basically 3 and out.
Yeah. And you're driving down the field, and he's playing well. And then inexplicably, like he's trying to hit kind of DJ Moore in this over route, and DJ he just kind of gives up on the play. I don't know. Once he saw the ball was in the air, he didn't really attack the ball. He got behind the defensive back, who makes a diving catch and somehow survives the ground himself. And DJ's just kind of like, okay, well, I don't think it's going to be caught, or it's not for me. Like, I don't know what he was even thinking at that point.
I don't know if he just didn't see it. Maybe
not right away.
Didn't know it was coming, or I like if you're Caleb Williams, you got to be ticked at him.
Right.
Because even if he kept running, maybe you maybe break up an interception if you couldn't get to the ball or catch it.
Yeah. No, it was weird.
But is that throw to Cole Kmet? Is that the Carlton Fisk home run?
Well, yeah. I mean, Carlton at least won the game. He didn't win the series, but yeah, in football equivalent, probably is. Probably one of the greatest.
In baseball playoffs, it doesn't matter who wins each game. It's do you win the series. So that was a great home run and won a game, but a lot of people think it won the World Series. It didn't. They actually lost Game 7 2 days later.
Yeah. Now, Caleb's throw did not win the game. It got them into overtime. Yep. So that would have been different, but that could have been right up. I mean, that kind of throw and catch was like,
Fisk home run got them to Game 7.
Right, got them to Game 7. So in football, it's not quite Montana to Clark, you know what I mean? Which won the NFC Championship, but it's still going to be memorable because of its difficulty and what it meant.
But Montana to Clark, they not only did they go to the NFC Championship, they won the Super Bowl.
They wound up winning the Super Bowl, yeah.
So that's that, but.
And they won it on. They won the championship on that play, so that ended the game. But didn't end the game. Actually, Dallas drove down there and got in field goal range, and I think there was a fumble recovery or something like that kept the Cowboys from winning. But yeah, it was such a great play. I mean, and it wasn't like he was just throwing a Hail Mary or throwing it up blindly. Like he saw Komet, who got separation at the last minute, and it was just a dart from 50 yards falling backwards. I mean, the guy's talent is incredible. And I kind of felt for him. I thought he deserved a better fate. And I thought that, Moore kind of gave up on the ball and ends up in interception. Anyway, what we found from these playoffs, and it's true during the regular season, I think one reason why the Bucs started losing games with Baker Mayfield is you have to protect the football against good teams and sometimes even against bad teams, right? Like Atlanta Falcons came back and beat you even though they were down 14 with 9 minutes to play. You have to protect the football. And when you see it going the other way in the postseason, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win those games. And so tough for the Bears for sure. That was a tough one to watch. I want to get into something that Ronde Barber had to say about Todd Bowles and his defense. But first, I was at International Plaza Mall today, folks. Yeah, I went upstairs, second floor, and went to Breitling Boutique. And guess what? There used to be a couple of these NFL, 32 teams, 32 different watches for men, the Chronomat watches. And now there are about four. And let me tell you, they are beautiful. So what I'm talking about is the NFL is celebrating the 104th year anniversary of their league with 32 different team watches. Each one has the team's colors in the face of the watch. These Chronomat watches have the logo there as well. You have to see them. You really do. They're on display in the window at International Plaza Mall there on the second floor. But they also got watches for your wife, your girlfriend. These are sports watches, extremely beautiful, really durable. If your wife or girlfriend's on the go like mine, they're going to hold up. She can pick from a different colors of wristbands and all of that. I'm telling you, this is a great store with great customer service. It's in the second floor of the mall there, right in the center. Breitling Boutique, International Plaza. Go check it out for them, and also let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So, we've been talking about Todd Bowles and all the firings that they've made on their coaching staff and that sort of thing. And the one thing that hasn't changed is that Todd Bowles is still the head coach, obviously, and he runs the defense. And I for my money, I think he's still going to run the defense. I haven't heard otherwise. I guess, every year he seems to make that decision after training camp or make it official. Obviously, he still has George Edwards. He has Larry Foote, so he can appoint one of those guys, pass game coordinator, run game coordinator, to be the play caller if he chose to. But every year he thinks about it and he decides he's going to call it after all because it is his defense. But I was kind of glad to talk a little bit to Ronde Barber, who had a discussion on his podcast and on other podcasts about Bowles' defense, which he's on the record as saying he hates it. And he gets that, it's a system that creates, lots of pressures. It's basically pressure on every down or the threat of pressure on every down. But it winds up creating almost more chaos for his own players as it does for, say, opposing quarterbacks. And we saw it last year with all the missed assignments, the bad run fits, and all the blown coverages and those stuff. It was interesting what Ronde said. And he said, and this was constructive criticism because he likes Todd and he actually does breaking down film for the Bucs. So he sees this defense every week. But he just said, there are too many busts because it asks too many different players to execute too many different jobs, like an edge player turning into a zone dropper or a flat defender, which in itself is fine from just a static sense on paper, but there's a nuance to that job, and the edge player cannot master it without elite coaching, teaching, and understanding. And the same can be said for the other position. And he says it's almost as if Bowles expects every player to be able to do every position's job, which in my opinion is ridiculous. Wow. I love Ronde because he's obviously is a student of the game. He's one of the best film guys when he was playing, does that now, obviously, for the Bucs on Buccaneers.com. But you know what? All during the year, Steve, the one thing I would say is these guys don't have a base defense where if you have a lead, you can just revert to that, and that's what we play, and we can play fast, It did seem like almost every play there was some guy with his hands on his hips looking at some other guy going, who busted there? Whose guy was that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we saw the entire year. And after every game, Todd would say, yeah, we had a bust here, bust there, got to coach better, got to play better. Okay, well, maybe it's just what you're asking players to do,
Maybe it's what you're asking your players to do.
Your players. That's what I mean. Yeah, your players to do.
It doesn't mean there's not players that couldn't handle it and do it, but you may not have enough of them on this team.
And he had them, obviously. He had the right players back in the Super Bowl year when they held Patrick Mahomes, without a touchdown. Those guys were skilled enough, were multifaceted enough, understood the defense well enough, and they had playmakers. They had enough playmakers that they could make this sort of X's and O's come to life. But I think now with a younger team, and obviously not as many game records on this squad as you had back in 2020, it's asking too much. And furthermore, you're playing slow because there's no base defense. There's nothing to fall back on and say, hey, if everything else fails and we've got a 14-point lead with 9 minutes to go, we're doing this, right? We are not allowing this to happen. We are doing this. We know we can play fast. We know we can get off the field this way. And that gives you a comfort because everybody knows their assignment. But I think Ronde's right. I think he's on to something because we've seen this too many times where, there's guys out of position. There's guys, not knowing who to cover. They use the wrong technique. 3rd and 27. I mean, we remember that famous call, against Atlanta. 4th and 12. I mean, guys not doing what they're coached to do, but everybody has to backfill whatever role or whatever pressure call that there is on every play. So I don't think Todd's going to change the defense in terms of its scheme. I don't think he's going to not call the defense because I think that's what he thinks he does the best. But, man, you're going to have to either get some really elite players or, as Ronde says, really elite coaches to teach it because right now those guys are too often lost. And I think it's a fair criticism. I'm glad it came from a Hall of Fame player. Lends a lot more credibility to it than if it was just, some guy sitting behind his keyboard typing it. But Todd also has to, I think, look at whether or not he wants to be the defensive coordinator. Again, I don't think he's given that up. I think that's his baby, and I think he feels like, it's my defense. I know it better than anyone. Why would I give that away? But maybe you do it just to be a better head coach and manage the game and be more of a walk-around guy and make sure things like special teams don't screw up. So we'll see. But it's a good read. You can try it out on the TampaBay.com, Tampa Bay Times. It's in Sunday's paper as well. I thought it was a good discussion anyway. So, look, we're going to hear a lot about Todd's staff in these next few weeks. And to that end, he did make changes. Obviously, he got rid of Josh Grizzard, which is on the offensive side. But, they got rid of the defensive backs coach, got rid of your safeties coach. And so, you have some accountability there, special teams, obviously. Kevin Ross is gone and guys like that. So, you do have an opportunity to improve your coaching, maybe whether you take a guy from your staff or not. But there's a chance there that the teaching gets better. And that was Ronde's point, because there's got to be elite teaching if you're going to do all those things, or elite players, or both. And right now they don't have that. Let's see what else. National championship game coming up. We've also had the Lightning continued. They lost. They snapped their win streak, but they've continued their point streak. They now have 13 games with at least 1 point.
Yeah, they lost in a shootout on Friday night in St. Louis. And then they rebounded with a 4-1 win in Dallas on Sunday. So it's now 13 straight games with a point, 12-0-1 in that stretch. It's 12 straight road games with a point, 10-0-2 in that stretch.
That's crazy. Wow. Their road record is exceptional, right?
18-4-4.
That's stupid, man. Wow.
Yeah, that's insane road love. And their home record's only a few games above 500. I mean, they
got off to a slow start, went like 2-6 or something like that at home, or 2-7.
Yeah, then they won like 6 or 7 in a row, and then they lost another like 4 in a row at home.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, so they play at home Tuesday night, and they'll go back on the road this weekend again, but back home just for one game. Here's a stat for you. So Sunday, John Cooper wins his 602nd game, all with the Lightning, of course. That's his only head coaching job in the NHL. When he joined the Tampa Bay Lightning, the franchise had 602 wins. So he now has half of Tampa Bay Lightning's franchise wins.
He has as many wins as every coach combined.
Prior to him, yes.
Prior to him.
Yep.
It's an insane stat.
So
Yeah.
now, so the next victory, John Cooper will have more wins than all other coaches in Lightning combined.
It's an insane stat. Hall of Fame coach, man, just adding to his legacy. And that's, out of it, well, he just coached his 1,000th game not long ago. So he's without being a math major, he's winning 60% of the time, which is insane.
Just under, but yeah, he's right there.
Yeah,
so
it's insane. Yeah, they're very fortunate. We're very fortunate, and it looks like they're going to have another great, season and make the postseason, and then we'll see. But they still got players that are, men on the men coming back. We still don't know about how long Braden Point's going to be out, so at least he's not out for the season. It's kind of a day-to-day thing, and see if he's going to play for Team Canada. That tournament's coming up soon, right?
Yeah, so the Stadium Series game's in 13 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Olympic break is later that week. So they'll play Tuesday and Thursday that week and then go to the Olympic break. So points out week to week. I mean, I don't anticipate he's back before the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he plays in the Olympics. Don't know. But McDonough, we still don't know about. Hedman's supposed to be back around that. Maybe he's back in time for Stadium Series or right before the Olympics. And then Emil Lilleberg will still be after the Olympics. He'll be back.
Yeah. But in the meantime, they keep winning, and that's the main thing. I haven't checked the weather forecast on the Stadium Series yet, but this would have been a good weekend for it.
This would have been a perfect weekend for it, actually.
Except for the rain.
Yeah, that part you didn't like, but everything, I mean, the temperature-wise and everything else, you love what this is going to be. So
frosty. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll get a break there with that. So, yeah, and then college football, of course, tonight, national championship, Miami. Kind of in their home ballpark, if you will, down there, which is, I guess, they're calling this the Orange Bowl. I don't know. It's a Hard Rock Stadium.
No, this is just the national championship game. It's not actually considered the Orange Bowl.
So it has its
The Orange
own.
Bowl was already played.
Yeah. So the national title game, obviously Indiana, which is one of the greatest stories in college football. Arguably, if they win, right, and go on to go 16-0 from whence they came as a program, you could make an argument that winning 16 games first, 17 games going 17-0 in and of itself, right?
Well, they would be 16-0 if they win tonight.
They would be 16. Okay, so winning 16, going 16-0, I think they'd be the first team to do that, right?
Yes. In order to go 17-0, you'd have to be like the James Madison undefeated, getting a bid, but you didn't get a first-round bye.
Right.
To get to 17-0. So, Indiana went 13-0, won the Big Ten championship, but then they got a bye in the playoffs, so they only got 3 playoff games, including tonight. So 16-0 is what they would be.
You could argue that it's the greatest college football team accomplishment in history.
Yeah, I think I might put the 19 LSU team ahead of them.
I think the Hurricanes probably had some teams that were better, yeah.
Yeah, some of those teams, 20 years ago only played 13 games. They didn't go 15 and 16.
Right.
Now, greatest turnaround in 2 years of a team.
Yeah.
Indiana was single-handed the worst winning percentage in college football.
Mm-hmm. History, yeah.
I think, I may not have the stat exactly right, but if Indiana wins tonight, and then they go 16-0 the next 11 seasons, and then start the 12th season, I think it's 6-0 or 8-0, they would finally be at 500 as a team.
Yeah.
That's how far below 500 they are as a team.
They were so underwater as a football program, yeah. It's incredible, man. Just incredible.
But I think it's going to be a good game because I think Miami's offensive defensive line is better than Indiana's.
I agree.
And
I think they could dominate. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you stop Indiana from running the football, right? You have a chance to get after the quarterback. I don't think they've had to play that way, so I think Miami's front could do that and really put a lot of pressure on their pass game, and we'll see if they can turn those guys loose. I think it's going to be a great game. I still think Indiana just has this efficiency to it, and this what Kurt Cignetti's done was incredible, right? And so I kind of favor them a little bit, but Miami's got studs everywhere. I think it depends on how the both quarterbacks play. Yep. That's a simplistic analysis, I know, but I think it's true. Who's going to handle a big stage?
Quote the other day.
Yeah.
Talking about his team kind of getting a lot of flowers and
Yeah.
celebrating this, and he's, like, we got to get back on point. You don't win a war with milk and cookies.
I love it. Yeah, he's unique, man. He's unique. And then there's people, suggesting that the Raiders just hire him and bring the quarterback and let's go. Not the worst idea I've heard, but
And he flat out said, "Look, I'm not an NFL guy. I've decided that years ago." Now, granted, you're saying that going into a national championship because you don't want any distraction.
Sure. Yeah,
but I don't know if I don't know. Who knows if he'd leave?
I don't think so at this stage. I mean, he seems like a guy that worked hard to get where he's at and is kind of enjoying his success, and he's proven everybody kind of wrong. Going to Indiana and doing what he's doing. So fascinating story. Great story in college football. Should be a great game. I really hope it's a great game, and I'm going to be watching. I know a lot of people will too. So college football season finally ends. We're almost to the end of the NFL season. That's how long college football goes now.
Does that mean it's going to be a late night for us tonight because we're not going to record till after the national championship?
I don't know. Are we? We're going to wait up? I don't know.
Well, we'll see how the game goes.
Yeah, let's just fake it. We'll fake it till we make it. Maybe we'll have plenty to talk about. Let me tell you, people are lighting up my mailbox with lots of Buccaneer questions, a few Lightning questions. So
we're supposed to get a special guest later this week too.
Yes, I heard tell of that. Should we spill the tea here a little bit?
It's not confirmed yet, but
no,
it's in the works. Our people have talked to his people.
Yeah. Well, he's a big, busy person now with his own podcast, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I guess it's good. I haven't really listened to it yet. I don't know. But I will, just so we can discuss what he's talking about. Of course, we're talking about the great Tom Jones, my former radio partner, longtime columnist, Tampa Bay Times. Hope to have him this week, Tommy, if you're listening, by popular demand. Every now and then, somebody will fire in a email or something, and just say, "Hey, man, where's Tom Jones? When's he going to be on?" So Tom will see and say, "Hey, man, I'll come on." So yeah, we hope to have him later this week. We'll see what goes on, and of course, follow the coaching stuff and all of that. It's going to be fascinating as that goes along. Anyway, get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Make sure you check out the beautiful watches. The NFL watches, 32 teams, while supplies last. They have watches for men, women, you name it. Great customer service. It's Breitling Boutique. Let them know that you heard about it here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening, everybody. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day.